Hello and welcome to Challenges to Implementing Database DevOps. My name is Grant Fritchey. I work for Redgate Software, and this is my contact information. If you want to get in touch with me after today, I'd love to help you out if I could. With me today is Stuart Ainsworth. Stuart, can you introduce yourself, please?
Hi, I'm Stuart Ainsworth. I'm a senior manager of service reliability engineering for Gladiator Technology, a Profit Star solution, a Jack Henry company. Just to give a little bit of background, I'm a former database guy, but I've started doing a lot more with networking and infrastructure and application supports in this role. And so I'm excited to talk to you guys about DevOps today. So.
Oops. There we go. All right, so we're all up and running. So, Stuart, why don't you tell me about your DevOps implementation? Let's start with that.
I'm sure. So Gladiator Technology, the business unit that I work for, we've been around since 2002. So we've been around for about 20 years now, getting close to 20 years. And we've got a lot of legacy applications and products. We do firewall monitoring, network IPS monitoring for financial institutions. So we're in the security space, the managed security provider space. And we get a lot of data flowing through this application that we've grown organically over the last 18 to 20 years or so. What we started noticing probably over the last 5 years is that, as this application has grown, it's gotten a lot harder and more difficult to get new features out the door while still managing some of the technical debt that we had to build up inside the application. So we really began to focus on figuring out the deployment pipeline a few years ago and started looking at tools, et cetera, that could help us with that. And so we began the DevOps journey. And I think that a lot of people know that once you start that journey, you never really finish it, right? I mean, it's just moving in place, right?
Sure.
And so where we're at now is really, I tell people that when you're in the DevOps movement, you're always in a point of pain, right? That it's never going to get. It gets easier in some ways, but the beauty of this whole philosophy, the beauty of this whole movement is that you start discovering new challenges as you go along. And so it's not for the faint of heart. And so where we're at right now is we're probably about 50% of our data footprint is being managed in a continuous integration fashion. And there's still some improvements that we're going to make there. And probably the other 50% is not. And when I'm talking 50%, we manage about 23 to 24 terabytes of data. And it rotates out pretty frequently. That's a 90-day window of data that we're managing right there. And so it's a lot of logs flowing through, a lot of turnover, a lot of transient. There are several new features that we continue to roll out frequently. We've really tried to accelerate that, particularly over the last 18 months or so, with improvements for our customer bases, et cetera. And it's been interesting. So again, part of the struggle of this is that you want to talk about what you're doing in an exciting and interesting way. And there's so much going on that it's hard at times to say, this is the one thing that I can pick out and tell you about. But
well, I mean, the topic is challenges, right? So it's what's hard about doing databases. DevOps is, we talk about DevOps and it can get kind of weird, and people get kind of odd about the whole term and what it means. But fundamentally, it's process in support of people using tools and automation, I think
right.
is a decent summary.
Right.
So why are databases lagging behind? Why is it so hard to implement this in databases?
I think the biggest problem is obviously it's the issue of state, right? Is that, when you start talking about applications being stateless in a sense that they can just, they are what they are, right? And so you can generate the code. It's going to take the moment of now and run with it. In databases, you have history. And if you make a change because your schema is so intertwined with the actual data that it represents, if that change, there's a risk associated with making that change, that if it breaks something, then you've got to figure out how do you migrate from where you were previously to where you're going to go forward with. It also is, I think it's a tool and cultural thing as well that, um, you know, as an industry, we database management pulled away from a lot of the other development and administration efforts because we became so focused on just the concept of data that we consolidated both of those efforts together.
Sure.
And what we've seen is, particularly in the development space, the tools and technologies have really accelerated, and we've pretty much stayed focused on writing better SQL, doing query tuning, doing performance management, and understanding the relationships there. And so,
Well,
we're still
and
struggling.
to be fair, HADR,
Right,
the whole idea of ensuring that we've got disaster recovery becomes like pretty any good paranoid database professional has got a good DR system set up, and they've probably got a good high availability system set up. And so we've spent a lot of time in there, but now we're
right.
finding that we're lagging behind, in the whole, infrastructure as code and all the rest of the stuff.
Right, and it's and I think it's as far as challenges when it comes to actually spinning this sort of stuff up is that uh, it's that mindset of I'm here to protect the data and protect the industry of the data, right? And so
Right.
we tend not to look outside of what the application is actually doing with the data. I think at